America's lead crisis was limited to a single town in Michigan, think again. The problem in Flint has exposed a larger lead crisis around the nation. And the fact is that lead is an epidemic. And if you're anything like me, you're wondering how we even got here. So luckily, it's time for a nightly show's super depressing deep dive. Take a look.
Hi, how are you? Fantastic, glad to hear it. Okay, time for a nightly show super depressing deep dive. Everybody knows that lead is terrible. When children ingest even a little bit of lead, it causes brain damage, seizures, even death. And death is one of the worst things that can happen to a child, even worse than being forced to wear a onesie for a band your dad likes. Hey dads, babies don't like Wilco. Nobody likes Wilco. Anyway, lead is terrible, but it's also everywhere. To find out why, we have to travel all the way back to 1904, Australia. See, in 1904, Australian investigators realized that children in lead-painted homes were showing the same symptoms as sick factory machinists who worked with lead all day. Soon, the Australians published their findings, and everybody could read about how dangerous lead was. Cut to 1922, and the League of Nations tried to ban lead paint worldwide. The ban worked, lead paint was outlawed, and everything was sunny and happy again. Back to you, Larry. Just kidding, life is an ever-turning maelstrom of avarice and pain, and this story is no different. See, the US didn't ban lead paint until 1978. Why did it take more than 50 years for the US to do anything about lead paint? If you guessed corporate greed, you win the trophy. Just don't chew on it, it's made of lead. The US didn't sign on to the 1922 ban because of lobbying by pro-lead groups like the Lead Industries Association and the National Paint, Varnish and Lacquer Association. That's the NPVLA, or NAPUVLA for short. And in that time, not only was lead paint legal, it was actively marketed to young people. Companies would even send out lead paint coloring books to households with children. In fact, take a look at the Dutch boy mascot. Fun, cartoony, kind of reminds you of this dude, doesn't he? Aw, what was the deal with that? In fact, in 1938, the government even mandated that cheap lead-based paints had to be used in certain government housing projects. Congratulations, you have just survived the Depression. What are you going to do next? I'm going to saddle my entire family with a lifetime of incurable neurological problems. So, like big tobacco, the lead industry fought warning labels, promoted junk science, and went after their critics. In the 1950s, they even threatened to sue the makers of the show Highway Patrol for their episode about lead poisoning.
Little Tommy Norton, gravely ill and without medical aid, was unable to understand the strong and gripping pains that racked his body.
Ooh, that sucks. Sorry, little Tommy. Anyway, cities didn't start taking action until much later, with New York banning lead paint in 1959. In the 60s, it fell to community groups to educate residents about the dangers of lead. Community groups like the Black Panthers. That's right, those Black Panthers. The same Black Panthers your mom's friend on Facebook thinks are going to break into her house and force-feed her chicken and waffles. Those Black Panthers were way ahead of the federal government on the dangers of lead. The Black Panthers ran people's free medical clinics that, among many other services, provided lead tests for their communities. Now, I know the Black Panthers did bad stuff. But testing their communities for lead? That's definitely in the pro column. So, scientific evidence about the dangers of lead was mounting, and you know what that means? Time to blame the victims. The lead industry actually claimed that the real danger was from uneducable Negro and Puerto Rican parents who couldn't stop their kids from eating paint. Uneducable Negro and Puerto Ricans? Yeah, well, maybe all the Negroes and Puerto Ricans were uneducable because you turned their brains into creme brulee with your toxic paint, you evil motherfuckers. Sorry. Back to monotone narration. In 1978, the United States finally banned the sale of lead paint, and lead pipes were banned in the 1980s. But the damage was done. Lead was already tied into millions of poor urban neighborhoods. It was part of the family! And it impacted real people, like Freddie Gray, whose death at the hands of the police touched off unrest in Baltimore last year.
His mother and stepfather raised Freddie and his siblings in a home so squalid, they want a settlement from the landlord over lead paint exposure.
They made the connection to problems he ultimately had in school.
I first read about it and I thought, how am I talking about lead paint? And we're talking about, we've lost this young man, but it's all connected.
That's right, pretty white lady. It's all connected in the great circle of over poor people and minorities. I know it's upsetting, but that's why it's not called the Happy Fun Time Channing Tatum and a Panda Bear Deep Dive. It's called the Super Depressing Deep Dive. Everything is awful. Have a nice day.
Well, that was depressing. We'll be right back.